So, this one's gonna be about productivity in the first place, and then I think we're also gonna head through some Reddit comments or posts or articles or things, but as always, more after the intro. It's every day, because it's insane, it's amazing, you know? And with that being said, hello, welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics fucking podcast with me, the host, Christopher Walch. And I'm really happy and I'm really fucking pumped to be here, even though it's already just a quarter basically before 8 p.m. So it's relatively late and I just came home from school, with the train and whatnot. So it takes quite some while. And in the train, I've been editing the other episode that I'm just uploading. So this episode is going to be for tomorrow. But as I've said before in the intro, we're going to talk about some productivity things and or productivity tips and or insights and or some things that the people from Pick the Brain have recognized and have seen and have just and are just willing to point out, I guess. Therefore, let's actually head right into it. And if you want to listen to this podcast, since it is actually a podcast, and the thing is, you might be just seeing the YouTube video. The thing is, you can also listen to this, which means then please go into the description and check out the podcast link. Then there's going to this link's going to lead you to a page where you can choose where to listen to the podcast on, because you can listen to it on Spotify, on Google Podcast, on Apple Podcast, on Stitcher, on TuneIn, on so many different websites, and hopefully also the website you're normally listening to your podcasts on, which is kind of the whole reason why it's quite everywhere, so that you are able to listen to it everywhere you want to be and everywhere you just want to listen to it. But yeah, as you can see on the left side of the screen, we're on the Pick the Brain site, and I think I've already been on the site, and it was suggested by somebody. I don't know by whom, unfortunately. I don't remember that, unfortunately. But yeah, and the article is called 8 Things People Do That Are Actually Not Very Productive. And the article, as always, is going to be down in the description and also in the show notes if you are on the podcast. And I've had a look at it, and we're going to headline read this one, so we're not going to read the whole entire thing because, the headlines just say quite a lot, and this is quite enough, at least for this article, at least how I feel about it. And afterwards, we're going through some Reddit things because, in the first place, I was asking myself, what should I be doing today? What is more valuable to somebody? Reddit things and or productivity? And I do have to say, I kind of feel like both things can really be valuable to somebody, just because some Reddit questions might be just the exact same question that you would also be having, But the productivity things, that might also be just really helpful for somebody. So I'm trying to do both, Maybe this is actually one of the things that they say you should not be doing, as I've actually been seeing by going through it. But yeah, so the first point is they point out is downloading and using specialized productivity apps. And I've been trying this as well, and I've been trying to just download some apps as well. And I gotta have to say that most of the time I haven't really been using them. Most of the time these were just some organization apps and or some apps for to-do lists and those things. And they are great, and if they are working for you, then it is totally great, and if they are making you more productive, then it is also pretty great. Something that really pops into my mind right now is that you should be really aware that if you're using those apps, that you're not going to stick on your phone after you have used them. For example, I've just been thinking about to-do lists, if you just have a glance at your to-do list just to see what you have to do for the day or what is left to do for the day, and you then stick to Instagram just because you've seen a notification or you've seen a WhatsApp message and whatnot, I think that's pretty dangerous actually, because it is something that really happens to me as well, relatively often actually, just because I'm often at my phone, I'm often checking analytics, I'm often checking the messages, I'm often checking the social media apps, and then sometimes, especially because or when I'm just on a social media site and or social media app, and I actually wanted to post something, I actually wanted to make a story, or I actually wanted to say something or something like that, then I often then stick to my home feed, which is something that should not really be the case, It's really fucked up, because then I stick for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, maybe even more to my fucking home feed, and this is actually not really productive. I just see that I'm closing the window, and now I'm here again. So yeah, please be aware of that, and please just notice that most often those productivity apps might not be really making you more productive. But let's actually have a look at what they say. While there are thousands of productivity apps and business tools to use, it may be best to stick to the old-fashioned way and jot down your ideas, notes, your ideas and notes in a planner or calendar. Yes, these apps can help you stay organized, but using a bunch of apps might instead create madness and less organized. Plus, what if your phone happens to shut down or break? All of your important notes will be gone. And this is actually something that I haven't been thinking about. But yeah, and of course, everything is then gonna be gone. The second thing is multitasking. And I guess, let's actually read what they have to say. Multitasking can be great when wanting to get multiple tasks done, but juggling a bunch of little or big tasks can easily result in a recipe for disaster. For example, as a business owner, it is important to give you full focus on tasks because you do not want to make an unwise mistake or accidentally mess something up. Yeah, and this is also something that I have experienced as well. When I'm doing a lot of things simultaneously, then I really tend to make more mistakes. Multitasking generally is such a thing that has some sort of a stigma, at my point of view, in society. You shouldn't be multitasking. You should really be focusing on one thing. You should be just having one thing that you're doing, whether it is about multitasking in terms of you are just having a business and you're doing multiple things, and or you're having multiple interests, and or you're willing to do multiple things, or you're willing to build multiple businesses, for example. This is something that you can see quite often. You can see quite often that people are talking about it, and people are I do not want to say confused, even though it was the first word that popped up in my mind, but people always say you should be focusing on one thing. You should be trying to build one business. You should be trying to build one podcast. You should be trying to build one social media site. And I gotta have to say, and I've been talking about it before, but some people like me, we like to do multiple things. We like to do just not only one thing. It is boring. It is sometimes boring to just keep focus on one particular thing. This might be one of the reasons why I'm basically having everything. There's a podcast, and there is video to the podcast, and then there's articles somehow related to the podcast. So there's quite everything because it is interesting, and it just keeps you motivated because there's always something new to do and there's always something different to do. And actually doing the exact same thing the whole day long, just for your entire life long, doesn't really sound that interesting. Of course, you can change things up, and of course, not every video is going to be the same video, and not every article is going to be the same article, but still, you get the point, you get what I mean. And this is just something that a lot of people feel, and some people feel. Of course, if you're seeing that, and it is also going to be the case for me, it's not always going to be just very good posts on every single site that I'm posting to. Since I'm having to do multiple posts, since I'm having to do multiple things, there is just going to be some drop of quality and or some drop of, basically, quality, I would say. And I think this is quite fine. It really is fine. This is just kind of the trade-off when you're posting and or doing multiple things. I don't know. And of course, you should then be focusing on the most important things. You shouldn't be really focusing on those things that do not really matter. But I think this kind of makes sense, and I think a lot of people understand that. So if you're a person that just likes to do multiple things, I do not really want to discourage you to do that. But I do also want you to be self-aware and see if you actually are unproductive, because if you can actually see that you are unproductive, there is something that you have to change up, whether it is about the multitasking part or whether it is about just some other things that they might also point out. The next thing is working overtime. And I'm not quite sure. But they say, believe it or not, the more you work, the less effective and productive you are going to become over both the short and long term. Why? We shouldn't be overworking our bodies and instead should be getting enough sleep in order to maintain a higher level of productivity. So now I think they are actually mixing up two different things. Sleep, of course, sleep is so important. And I really have to say that you should get enough sleep. I wouldn't necessarily say that sleep, there is going to be a point where sleep is going to make you more productive, because 1 hour sleep compared to 8 hours of sleep, there's going to be a difference. There's definitely going to be a difference in productivity. But I wouldn't necessarily say that 7 hours of sleep compared to 8 hours of sleep, that there is going to be a really high spike in productivity, even though some scientists and some people will say that it is the case. But I don't know. I just really have to say that you should monitor it by yourself, to just see if it is the case for yourself. And if it is the case, then of course you should be changing it up and you should be just messing around with it to see if it is actually the case, Self-awareness, I guess, it actually is really important since such a lot of things are generalized, since a lot of things are applied to masses. which should or should not be the case. Sometimes it's working, and of course there are going to be things that you can generalize just because they are going to be the case for the general public, but not for everyone, and therefore self-awareness is really important. But working over time, like it's difficult, I guess, since I think this actually plays into, it really plays into productivity and also efficiency and those things. And I've been talking about it before. I've been actually having a keynote, like not really a keynote, like just a public keynote or something, but I've done a little keynote and I've presented it also on the podcast and also on the YouTube channel. So I might be linking it down in the description. I guess I'm just going to forget about it, because I'm always doing that, I'm always talking about things. But if I forget about it and you kind of feel like that you just need this fucking keynote, then either go onto my channel and or onto the podcast and or just hit me up on social media, and I will just nearly directly send you the fucking link to this particular episode, because I'm basically always just there to be hit up, basically. But I'm not quite sure, since what I want to say is that productivity is such a thing that a lot of people are talking about, but not a lot of people are talking about harder work and or working harder. The thing is, stimulating productivity and being more productive is way harder to influence as, for example, hard work is, because you can just work 1 hour more and then you're just working harder compared to the day before, compared to the week before, or whatever, which is just a really easy metrics and a really easy factor to just stimulate or manipulate, compared to productivity, which is really tough and really difficult to stimulate and or manipulate, basically. The next thing is being a yes man. And I have to say, and this is something that comes from somebody, I did forget about who it was, but he said that, if it is actually like you're having two options. Either it is a hell yes, I'm going to do that, or it is a no. And if it is not a hell yes, I'm going to do that, then it should also be a no. Just if it is not a hell yes, then it's going to be a no, which is kind of the rule there. And I think it could actually help a lot of people, because we are often doing something that we are not really kind of happy about, maybe, and we are not really looking forward to, maybe, and or just we feel like, it is cool, but it's not extremely cool. It's not a hell yeah. It's like I'm gonna do it, but it's not a hell yeah. And it is, I think it's quite a good point, and I think it's also quite a good rule. But something that has to be said as well is that sometimes for me, like, I'm actually in the no business. I would actually consider myself to be in the no business, because I often see that I'm directly going into the no state. When somebody is asking me to just do something with them, the first answer is just going to be no. This is my kind of neutral state, or my natural state. It is what I'm doing, it is what I'm saying. It is what I'm just always kind of answering, which is not particularly right always, because then you lose out on a lot of fucking opportunities. There are going to be opportunities, and if you say no to everything, there are not going to be any fucking opportunities. But if you say yes to everything, there of course are going to be a lot of opportunities, but you're probably also going to waste some time. So I do think that there just has to be something in between. Of course, saying yes to everything is not going to make you very productive, I guess. I think it's also going to just distract you from what actually matters as well. The fifth point is doing everything yourself and never asking for help. And I would say this is always something that I'm doing. I literally never ever kind of ask for help, because I kind of feel like, no, I do not want to get help. But, when I'm asking for help, then I'm asking fucking Google or fucking YouTube or something. to really be honest, without being cocky or whatever, I don't know, I kind of feel like that this is, for me at least, the fastest way to just gain the information and get the information. But sometimes it's also just faster to ask my colleagues, especially when it is in school. Just Googling it is not always going to be faster, especially if you know that somebody knows what you need. Then of course just ask somebody for help and ask them, and there's also just going to be a human interaction, which is also something that might be particularly valuable to you. The sixth one, rushing through tasks to reach a goal. Yeah, you're just going to be sloppy, there's going to be some mistakes. There's going to be some things that you're not doing as accurately maybe, and or as just well as you would do it without having the stress and or anxiety as I'm just reading it. And it is just going to be the case, and I think everybody has experienced that, and everybody is going to experience that, which is fine. which is really cool, because then I guess it comes up to just focusing on those things that matter, which leads you to having more time for those things that actually matter, because you're not kind of wasting too much time with things that might matter or actually are not mattering at all. Therefore, it's, The 7th one, checking emails as they come in. So instead of checking your email every time you receive one, maybe limit it to every 2 to 4 hours. I guess it has also something to do with the whole social media part that I was talking about before. Like, okay, you're checking some things on social media, and then suddenly you get a message, and then you just hop onto the message and you reply, and there's going to be just an endless cycle of you being on your phone for 30 minutes or maybe even more. And I guess this might also be the thing with emails. I don't know, like they talk about just checking your mails, and they're not really talking about just answering the mails, because I think, at least as I've actually been reading it, I've actually been reading that, for example, Tim Ferriss is just thinking and was saying that it is a tedious task to answer to such a lot of emails. And also PewDiePie has been talking about it, and so many people have been talking about it, that's just answering to so many emails is not really the easiest part, and often it actually is the case that, for example, PewDiePie said that answering to emails is the biggest part of what he's doing all day long. And I kind of thought, like, well, what might he be answering? What might be the questions that he's getting all day fucking long? But I kind of also assume that, of course, there are going to be some emails from sponsors and people that want to sponsor somebody and or sponsor him and the other quote-unquote companies that he's having and whatnot. So there's definitely going to be emails, but I don't know. I'm also looking forward to that, actually, to see and also validate things. I actually have to say that becoming a YouTuber and or becoming an internet personality is something that's relatively interesting, since I've definitely been following such a lot of people for such a long time, and then also validate what they have been saying, especially also in terms of earnings and especially also in terms of just how tough it is. And it actually is tough, recording something every single day and pushing out something every single day is definitely not something that's too easy. It is work, and you have to be creative, you have to be thinking about different things and new things from time to time, because you're also going to get bored of just doing the exact same thing over and over and over again. But the last one, and I think probably the most important one, is being a perfectionist. The problem is with being perfectionistic is that your sense of perfectionism is probably not going to be the right one. Especially if you're producing something for somebody else, then you really have to think about this particular person and or this particular target group. Because you think that something is good or something is bad doesn't really mean that also the consumer, the people that actually consume it in the end, so the end consumer, consumer, and or just your boss maybe, and or the client, that you're just designing something for, or you're creating something for, whatever you're doing, they have to like it. It is not about you. And of course, they are going to just, for example, in the design business, they are going to just also keep attention to what you're saying, because you are the designer and not them. And of course, they are going to listen. Of course, they are going to just also keep an eye on what you're saying, so that, so that they're actually making the right decision, and or hopefully making the right decision. But in the end, it is not about you. And therefore, being perfectionistic is kind of the wrong thing. Of course, it is really not easy to just turn it off just from one day to the other day. But actually kind of realizing that your own sense of quality and your own sense of basically quality might not be the quote-unquote right one, might not be that one that is actually mattering to the people that you're serving, to the people that you're trying to do something for. Maybe. Maybe you actually have the luck, and your sense of quality and your sense of what is good and what is bad is actually completely aligned with the sense of your consumer, the people that you're producing something for, the people that you're doing something for, the people that you're serving, basically. And let's actually hop onto the, let's actually hop on the Reddit really quickly, to just see if there's something particularly amazing. Prioritize yourself, maybe some thoughts, maybe some things to get you thinking. And there's an image. You're not going to master the rest of your life in one day. Just relax, master the day, and then just keep doing that every day. It's actually a pretty good one, because it is indeed about patience. It's gonna take some time. It is not something that I kind of want to have. Of course, I want to have things a little bit quicker. I actually want to see my results a little bit quicker. It would be nice, but I'm not choosing that, or this is not something that I decide actually. I don't know who is deciding that, but it is what it is. It is what it is. And prioritize yourself would also. So stop playing the comparison game, stop yielding to the world's standards and continuously changing agendas. Prioritize what really matters to you and you alone. Do what makes you happy and own your decisions. Have to say that's right, and in general, just comparing yourself to other people is the dumbest fucking shit that you could ever do, basically. Since we are all different, since we are all individuals, since all the things that we're doing are working differently for all of us, and we are all learning, and we're actually all having a different worldview. It's not the case that we all see things just as the other person. Like, we are all individuals. We all see things differently. We all do things differently. We all think differently. We all just gain things differently. We are just all different. Of course, there is going to be some things that you can generalize. There are some things that can be applied to quite a lot of people. Since we are not just completely different, but in major parts we are. Like, if you just get what I mean. In terms of, there are just going to be things that we can apply to just nearly every single person there. But yeah, I think that's going to be the end of the episode. It's just been an amazing episode. In terms of the talking thing, in terms of those things. Like, it is amazing to see that, after just, I think, 11-hour day of school, sitting here recording feels amazing if everything just is going as I want it to go. If I do just kind of have the vocabulary in my fucking brain to also use it. But yeah, I do not want to stretch out the whole episode. And therefore, I'm wishing the best health, of happiness, and also success. And I also hope that you're going to remind yourself on how you're going to be remembered, which basically means your legacy, which means that you're going to be a nice person and then being remembered as a nice person. Because why not? Just because it is nice. It is amazing to have that, I guess. And the problem there is we're 7.7 billion people on this planet. Not everyone's going to like you. And there is just going to be people that hate you. And there is just going to be people that dislike you. 3 other questions that I hope that you're going to ask yourself are: why are you here? What are you trying to change? And what is bothering you the most? And those 3 questions are hopefully going to show you your purpose and maybe even just a business idea, since a lot of companies started out with solving a problem that really pissed them off. And there is definitely something that is just really pissing you off and that is not solved yet. Of course, it's not going to be something pretty easy to solve probably, but there is something. But with that being said, I'll see you the next time, hopefully. So please stay subscribed to the podcast and or subscribe to the podcast and also to the YouTube channel, so that you're not gonna miss out on everything. I'll see you the next time.